I'm here with Josh from Allegheny Arms. If you don't know Josh, I'm going to speak a little bit for you.
Please.
Allegheny Arms is who we recommend if you need AE gunsmithing. Like, he does amazing work. I've seen you do pretty crazy things. I'm not saying send crazy things to him.
I mean, you can.
You can.
I might tell you no, but we'll make every effort to make it happen.
Yeah, but like, I don't know, like Clay's guns.
Yeah.
The things you do, I'm like, how the heck did he think about doing it like that?
Yeah. M57 electrical.
Yeah.
M57 firing device, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some really original ideas that we help bring to life for sure. We've done some Accuracy International builds, just profiling directly into the barrel, some proof research stuff for bolt guns. Those are always really cool when you can profile it right in. You don't need the separate collar.
I mean, I don't know if you do those more often than not, but I know you will always do like just profile, like adding that SPR step so they can just run Mark 12 collars and 3-piece collar setups. So like if you have a barrel that you want to.
Yeah, whenever it's possible. Yeah, we always try to use off-the-shelf collars, off-the-shelf hardware from you guys. Your gunsmith fit collars, the blanks and the 3-piece collar blanks, and now you guys have started selling the gunsmith fit SPR style. Those things are fantastic.
You also do the can-soft collars. I know those are like already sized for a 69 barrel.
For 6933 they work phenomenal off the shelf, absolutely. But for literally anything else, they're gonna need modded. But the cool thing is they're there and they're not terribly difficult to make work, and you can work with basically any government profile barrel. Yeah. Whether it's the pencil on up through the standard 740, 720 profiles. Yeah, those are definitely cool. But
more times than not, I'll get some guy going to a local gunsmith who just doesn't understand the system like you understand it and just butchers it. And I'm like,
I've had to fix a few.
Yeah. Not
a ton, fortunately, but we've had to fix a few. Collars were misinstalled, things along those lines, or people get a mount system from one of the other manufacturers, and they're great systems, but they don't understand how they necessarily should work. Yeah. And they try to plug it in. It's like, well, you're trying to use as an example, like an OCL collar system for a B mount can, and you're like, that doesn't necessarily work the way you think it works. Yeah. Yeah.
But what I also think is cool is, I mean, unfortunately, all our machines are usually tied up in like suppressor manufacturing, so we're not able to do gunsmithing, but we're also not able to like come up with cool new products really quickly. It's a longer product or process. But what I think is cool about you is like you do all those gunsmithing jobs and you're like, I need a product or I need something to solve this problem. Yeah. So like the tapered gas blocks have been huge.
Yeah, we've sold a ton of those things. As a matter of fact, here at the clone shoot, just walking around and having people come up to the booth, I mean, I've seen probably 2 or 3 dozen of them here. Yeah. Or people said, "Oh yeah, hey." I mean, we get a lot of people that have come by and just show us the builds that they've done. Or, I mean, in the case of like Johnny and Clay and those guys, I mean, they just walk by. I'm like, "Hey, I know that gun." Yeah. Which is actually kind of funny. I love coming to shoots and events and stuff like this, because you deal with these guys over the phone and you do a ton of work, you talk to each other, exchange emails, but it's nice to put a face to a name. And what's funny, I think, is when you see them walking around with a gun over their shoulder and you're like, "Hey, are you this guy?" Like, "Oh yeah.
I remember seeing that gun in my shop 3 months ago."
Yeah, I built that last year, right? Yeah. Because, I don't know, you remember the gun, but you don't get a chance to put a face to it usually until you come to an event like this, which is really cool. But but to your point, whenever we see a problem, I mean, I try to come up with a new solution. I mean, I told you we've talked to Ron about doing a new collar format. Yeah. So I'm gonna try and get those done here in the next couple months.
Those cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping that'll save a lot of time, especially with the stuff that is Cerakoted. People already have their guns coated and they don't. Or in the case of we had a lot of guys that have more rare barrels, and they don't want to machine the barrel. They don't want to obliterate original factory markings and stuff. So we're working on something to do that. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
And what I find is like with the introduction of your tapered gas block and some of your other mounting options, it's getting people more creative with their AE builds. Like before we would just see AE cans on clones. Now you're starting to see it on like weird and crazy stuff that I'm like, I never would have thought of that. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. People are really taking what we're making available as basically a problem solver stopgap for gun X, and like, oh man, I can use that to do this.
Yeah. Not only do you do AE gunsmithing and AE products, like you make a bunch of other crazy stuff.
Oh,
like the Master Key.
Yeah, we've done them. We work with Tier 1 outfitters on this one. We're doing Master Key clones. We did a run of about 100 and some of these last year, and they sold out super quick. So fortunately, through some industry friends, I was able to get another 150 Remington 870s that we're going to do another batch of those. And then again, another project that we're working on with Tier. Another project we're working on with Tier is doing M110 and SR25 suppressor clones, the CAC suppressor clones. The baffle stack is their own design, but the construction is very similar, so they mount the same, and you actually get a little better performance out of these for pretty much the same weight penalty and everything else. That's cool. And then most recently, we've got this guy here. Most people recognize this as a Serbu Super Shorty. I know Mark Serbu hasn't been doing them, mostly due to the fact that you can't get the guns, I think.
Yeah.
But again, I was able to source some guns, and we pretty much, kind of copied his homework a little bit, and we're making effectively the same gun. They're coming out really cool. We've had a lot of interest in these things, especially for the price point we're looking at.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll take off pretty soon. We got some other suppressor designs and some other stuff, but yeah.
Well, I think it's cool because at least in like the cloning community, some of the larger companies or some of the older companies, they phase out legacy stuff and they're like, we're not really interested.
Yeah.
That lets people who still want it make it available, and especially with the $200 payment going away, like something like that, that's an easy sell.
It's a no-brainer. It's really kind of a no-brainer because people wanted this, but I mean, a lot of time, when Serbu was selling these things on the reg, I think they were like $1,500 plus. Yeah. Plus a $200 tax stamp or a $5 tax stamp, depending, plus the weight, et cetera, et cetera. And with that going away and the price coming down on them, I think we're going to probably move a ton of units on those.
Yeah, I think they're going to be awesome.
But yeah, to your point also with legacy, and that's where I think Alan really has been shining in the industry is, even though you guys are an older company and, Ron's been building this stuff for years, and you guys took over, you just brought back all the stuff that he just didn't have the bandwidth to keep going with. Yeah. To really meet the demand. And, I think the joke in the industry is like once you get to a certain point, you become allergic to money, Yeah. Which I get. When you're talking about a corporate level business, you have to answer to investors and things along those lines, or you just get, if you're a smaller show, you don't want to keep doing the exact same thing until the day you keel over. Yeah. So you kind of have to figure out, well, what's next? Yeah. To keep it interesting for you.
Yeah, and I think like having to do with like Clone Shoot and even us, it shows that these old designs still have a place and can be extremely popular. Yeah. That they might have, like, people are getting into the gun industry at different points. We've been in it for a while, so what is, like, we sometimes become numb to the cool stuff, but then we forget that there's people getting into the gun industry right now in the cloning industry. It's like, oh, this stuff is cool, but if we've already moved on from it, like, that was so 10 years ago. Yeah. Like, then they're not going to be able to do the stuff we've already enjoyed doing.
Yeah, it's kind of a what's old is new again situation. And like you said, I mean, the people that have been in it for a while, you kind of just, okay, well, that's old, I'm moving on. And you'll hear people say, oh, a 2-point thread-on can, why? That's 30, 40 years old. It's like, yes, but it still outperforms a lot of what's available today, if not most. And if it really wasn't good and there was no demand, why are there 2 newer companies now that are effectively making brand new versions of what you guys have been doing for years?
Yeah.
So yeah, it just shows that the demand is there and that the interest is there and that the designs still hold up.
Yeah, if they sucked, no one watched.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah. I mean, you'd hope so.
Yeah. But again, though, I mean, that goes back to what we were talking about a minute ago when you started talking about corporate level stuff. Yeah, I mean, not to call out like Aimpoint as an example, but like the clone industry, there's certainly a demand for like an Aimpoint 3000, Aimpoint 5000 clone to kind of go along with the Gordys and things along those lines of that era. And the Aimpoint guys are like, why? Why would you want an inferior red dot? Why would you want that?
Yeah.
Because I mean, at this point, I mean, you're talking 30-year-old electronic technology, which I understand, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I think. Like sometimes Aimpoint nights, once you get a military contract, we're small fry compared to that.
Yeah.
And so, you said investors, they got to answer to the money makers. So
yeah, I mean by and large, I mean, from our retail operation, our gunsmithing, our manufacturing, all that stuff. I mean, for what we are, I consider us a pretty respectable company as far as sales and things like that, and the amount of work that we're able to turn. But realistically, I mean, we're one contract for a Knight's Armament. We're one contract for an Aimpoint or a Daniel Defense. It's like, okay.
Sweet. Well, thank you for chatting with me.
Yeah, man. No problem.
And thank you. I'm sorry for making your life difficult. But I'm sure everyone, appreciates the work you're doing.
Yeah. I appreciate them.
If we didn't have you, I think it could be a lot more difficult to get into our suppressors. I'm here with PRI. We're gracious for you coming out to clone shoot this year.
Yeah, glad to be here. It was, didn't really know a whole lot about it. And you guys kind of threw it in my lap and said, hey, it's right here in Ohio. Why don't you guys come out? And we did. I'm glad we did. Probably will continue to do it now. But yeah, it was kind of a personal invite, so we jumped on board. And
yeah, I mean, if you walk around all the tables, you see a lot of your stuff around here.
Which is nice. We really appreciate that. And there's a lot of respect out there for it, and we like that. So, yeah, everything's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, going into the history of PRI, you've been doing this for a while.
Ground floor, yeah. It's been almost, 24 years now?
24 years.
Basically, we've been on that project where we're doing the Mark 12 Mod Zeros and working with all the different manufacturers, and then basically coming up with an ideal package for those guys, and they appreciated it. And now all the cloners are, reaping the benefit also, because we keep on doing it. So.
Yeah, so you started off obviously selling to the military for the Motto program, then eventually like the Mod H program. How did you start to see like that transition from those military sales into, wow, these civilian sales are starting to pick up?
I think it started more with like the 3-gun shooter competition.
Oh, really?
And then ex-military guys are calling up and saying, they knew we had all the parts, and then it kind of just snowballed from there. But yeah, it was just kind of word of mouth and going to the SHOT Show and the NRA and talking to people, and the interest grew, and it's like went down that rabbit hole and it's still there.
Yeah, it's crazy because we get so many people who are reaching out to us because they want to use our cans on your rifles. And I know you build complete rifles, but you also sell the parts.
Yep.
And as you go around and look at all these companies, sometimes I feel like these huge companies, when they get a little bit too big for the britches, are like, oh, this legacy stuff, it's in the past, let's move on. And then people like this are kind of, well, we love this old stuff. Yeah. So it's a lot of respect, I guess, for you guys that you're willing to keep on making the older stuff.
Yeah, and actually, the people out here are growing our business because they're saying, well, why don't you start doing this like they did and do this like they did? And we think about it, and then we start making it. And it's like, why didn't we do this sooner? And so there is some credit going to the people that are out there shooting it and saying, I want more like this. And just changing manufacturing, and we do it. So.
Well, I sometimes think they might be a little bit too obsessed with the details, but
well, it depends on the individual.
Yeah.
You got some extremes, and then you got some that just like to shoot and want something that's, close.
Yeah.
They want to put their own little twist on it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. But we appreciate you guys coming out to this. And I mean, it's huge for you guys to, I think it's really a validation for the hobby as a whole that companies like you come out to this and show that you support it, and and they love supporting you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll definitely be back.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, thank you for chatting with me.
You bet.
I am here with Joel from Otter Weapon Works.
Yep.
And you've probably seen him on usually admin videos, right?
Administrative results, Instagram, and then I did shoot a YouTube with the Last American Outlaw. We did a Mark 12 video.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
So yeah.
It might be a little outdated right now with the recce stuff.
Yeah. So I will tell you this: I learned something new. I didn't realize because I built Outlaw's recce, and he sent me the parts. I put it together for him. I had no idea that the 15-1 was so controversial. So
no one knew until we put some new information out there. I'm sorry to everyone for that.
It's funny. The 15-1 deniers are like the flat earthers in my world. So it's funny to me because 15-1 is a weird concept. When you think about it, I'm like, how is that any more advantageous than a 14.5 or a 16-inch? You know what I mean? It's a weird number. So when you guys came out with it, I was like, oh, this is gonna really mess people up. So
luckily, people. I mean, you get some of the people who are like, oh man,
it's a cash grab, or they just want to sell suppressors. I'm like, no.
I want to do a cash grab. I got easier ways of doing it. But no, what I noticed. Not many people actually are too angry about it.
Yeah.
I think cloners in general realize that information changes the longer we go on, and sometimes new stuff comes out, and that's just part of it. You get a couple people who bummed out they just bought 15-1 barrels. I feel more bad for the guys who cut down their 416 barrels.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, and for you say that, I'm all about passing the information. So I like when someone tells me new information or information I have is wrong. All right, well, show me the proof. I want to put out good information, because a lot of this is just information sharing, because I wasn't there, you weren't there, but you talk to somebody, they're like, oh, well, this is what I remember.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys that use these guns, they're just guns. They don't know. They're like, oh, it had a laser and a flashlight, and I think it had this can, or I think it was a loophole, and you're like, no, actually it was this, and here's the picture, So to me, it's all about photographic evidence. Well, the one that the Gordon rifle. I mean,
yeah, that Gordon rifle's been shared around a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean,
that was on the Aimpoint magazine, and
yeah, and then some guys, that cloned it, and like I said, it was like when I started cloning, like I always wanted to do this gun, and then having the ability to do it with the right suppressor and the right barrel length, like it evolved because it started. I bought one of Ron's 12.7 barrels from Craddock, and was running the AEM5. And then it was like, well, that's not really it. Like, it looks like it. And then I was like, no, it's a 14.5. And I was like, well, let's go down that path. And then I was like, oh, I can get the delts. Here we are.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I think that's one of our goals has been, we want to make it easier for people to build the guns they want to build.
Yeah.
If you want to stick with 15.1, you can stick with 15.1.
Right.
But if you want like as accurate as you can get, I want to make that available. So with the whole recce thing, it's like, we gained the information.
Right.
We wanted to give people the information and also the ability to build that rifle.
Yeah. And for me, it's like just having you guys, having Trajectory take over and help Ron and then take over AE. I mean, it was like unlocking like this knowledge base that was like, unless you called Ron and spent 3 hours on the phone with him to answer your one question, which was great. Now you guys are like, hey, here's a website, here's this, and so like seeing that progression of like, Allen Engineering's been around forever, and to now it's like, oh, I just go to the website. Oh, M4. Oh, I need this collar, I need this can, or oh, I want to do a Gordon. And so like the information is now available.
Yeah, you don't have to dig through ARFCOM for an hour just to find one piece of information.
And people will ask me, I'm like, ARFCOM page 1, Mark 12. You will find everything you need. Like, there's a list, and some guys are just lazy, and some guys, they just don't know, and like you get that whole spectrum, and especially in cloning where guys are like, they saw a movie or they served and they're like, I want my rifle. And then they're like, that starts that journey of like, I want to build a Gordon, or I want to build a recce, or I want to, and like going down that line of like, why do you clone, And so some guys, like, I want it to look cool, and some guys, I want it to be right.
Yeah.
And like having that resource of like, this is how it's right. And these parts are available. Like, it's not like you got to meet some guy in a shady back alley to get this ring. It's like, no, you can buy it here, And so like companies now like Space Magic or HTX, making these parts available for guys that want to build these guns. I think it's a good thing,
Yeah, I think the cloning industry in the past, it's couple evolved, years have just blown up.
Well, like, I know people, like I helped Noveski out with the barrel project. They didn't have an original, they didn't have the drawings or nothing. So I took my issued one and sent it to them, and, some people loved it. They were like, oh, now my gun is, and some people were like, I can't believe they're I'm like, look, man, stuff costs money. And like, we're not in that world now where we can find stuff in a bin for $40 because somebody doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
Very rarely. Like, I wish I could find those deals. So, but no, it's been fun, man. I love you guys' stuff. The Allen stuff is, I will say, out of these two cans, they're the quietest cans I own for 5.56, hands down. So like, this gun is really fun to shoot, and then even shooting it in a carbine form, to me, it's one of my favorites. I mean, it's what I'm known for, and I've had guys come up and shoot it here at the shoot. I'm like, go shoot it, please, and it's like, if you're on the fence, just come shoot it, And so,
well, we appreciate all that you have. I mean, you've been a big proponent of getting that information out there, so we really appreciate you.
No, man, thanks. Thanks for sponsoring this. Thanks for being here. Like, this is probably one of the best events that I get to do, and
it's our favorite event to go to.
And having companies now like realize that like cloning, it's a smaller sect of the firearms, but like
it's growing.
This venue has been great, and you got everybody here, and there's no drama. Everyone's having a good time, and having companies support this, because like this started with like 3 guys in a garage, like let's get together one weekend and just get all the cloners together, and like now Chris has got it. Now this is the 3rd year, and we're gonna do it again and again, and like having your guys' support has been huge. So thank you. So seriously, it's been fun. So
awesome.
Thanks,
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
I am here with Clay, or better known as Firing Device Electrical M57. You're the guy who owns more AE cans than I own at this point.
I think we checked the numbers the other day, right?
Yeah, we checked the numbers, and as you can see, they're not all clones. Actually, I think you only have one real clone.
There's one.
We've done a video on this guy before, the XM57 retro mod, but obviously we have some other cool stuff here.
This is actually the first rifle I ever bought when I was 18.
Really?
Yeah. Except the only thing original on it now is the action.
Yeah, I'm sure
everything else has been changed.
You didn't buy it like this before. But what are some of the other things you got here today?
So this one, 308, we've been shooting this with subs today, which has been really silly. Hopefully you guys got some video of that at some point. This one is a 300 Win Mag that also has an M24 on it. It started out as a Mark 13 surplus chassis with a deployment case and whatnot, but I decided to do things a little differently and built it out this way. 417 did recently, tier 1, the guys over there, they helped with the conversion on it. And also Josh at Allegheny chopped it down so that we could, shorten it a little bit, but also run an AE can on the end, which has seen some use if you can't tell.
Yeah, this is a AEM4 and 30 cal?
Yep. Yeah, fun fact for the people who don't know, because people always ask how I get these obscure AE cans, is you just ask and they'll make you one. And it's that easy, and it's like $50 extra to get whatever Allen Engineering can you want in a different caliber within reason.
Yeah, it requires a little bit of extra work outside of our normal manufacturing schedule. That's why it's a little bit more, but
yeah. Well, I usually text Brian and say I want the special can, and he doesn't text me back. And then I call him and tell him I want it, and then he's just like, "Can you just email me and ask?" And I'm like, "Fine, I'll email you."
I'm horrible with communication outside of emails, so never. If you don't get a message back on Instagram, just email me.
Yeah. They are a business. You should probably email them instead of DMing them on Instagram.
But yeah, we let you, if you want it in a weird caliber, we could bore it out. Since we make these by hand, it's not too difficult.
This one has one of the first AEM5s I got. It's still one of the ones that Ron made. So I put this gun together years ago and then painted it. Haven't changed much since then. It's a great rifle.
It's one of the cooler Mark 12s I've seen, mainly because it uses a 15-1 barrel, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's a little bit recessed into the handguard.
But I feel like I should get your new barrel suppressor combo, the M4 Recce one.
The Recce one?
And swap it out here. But then what do we do with this Tiger Stripe painted AEM5?
I guess you got a Tiger Stripe another rifle.
I would. That's no concern.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, obviously, when you're cloning, it is a little bit easier to know, like, these are the parts I want to use because it's what was used. How do you, what's the inspiration? How do you decide what to use?
I feel like a lot of it is like getting the vibes right? I mean, we did a lot of talking this weekend of like what this clone shoot really is about.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really not, most people aren't cloners, but most people just appreciate the aesthetic of military styled rifles. Most commonly GWAT ones, I guess.
Yeah.
But so like, all those parts that we're using that time, sure, a lot of them aren't like necessarily the best you can possibly get. I mean, the Harris bipod isn't the best bipod. A PEC 2 is the best laser you can possibly get. And no one argue otherwise.
And only $800 for full power. So
I never do any of the old school scopes that people pay too much money for that cloners do, because the modern ones are good and Night Forces look good. But I guess I do have a Spectre there. Yeah. But it's like, I guess it's the vibes. But all those old utilitarian parts are great and better than a lot of the G-Wiz new stuff now that it's probably slightly more optimized, but it just doesn't have the soul.
Doesn't have the soul, the vibes.
I think the biggest thing that maybe makes the AE cans harder for your average person is the just knowing the barrel profile and because it's a two-piece system, it's not just time your muzzle device and slap on a suppressor. I always like to joke with my buddy Zach that building an AR with an AE can is just like it's AR building with the difficulty turned up slightly. Hard mode AR building.
What I read on, I don't know if it was a YouTube comment or something, but they said they like AE cans, but because it makes you think about your build a little bit more.
Yes.
It's more than just throwing a can on the end of your rifle. You need to think about the system as a whole and how the barrel, rail, suppressor all interact.
I've had so many times with like a barrel and a gas block and a rail on the floor of my basement with a measuring tape and double checking and just to be like, is this gonna fit? I'm like, I think so.
Yeah.
But like, and for the longest time, you guys didn't have any of those actual profiles up on the website. Now they all are there. But before, I was like, like, how do I get the taper profile so I can get this 300 Win Mag tapered? But really, like, if you're nervous about getting to AE cans, I mean, the best thing you do is probably talk to Allegheny Arms. They're just like the absolute pros. And, Josh is really good at getting back on emails and things like that, even though he might be the middle of the night or something like that.
Yeah.
And they'll do a great job and probably give you some good advice on the way. And they've built some really cool stuff to support the product too. They made some tapered gas blocks and the like.
Yeah. What's cool is, like, these cans can be used on clone rifles, but also, like, you can just do some wild stuff with this that just looks awesome.
Yeah.
And not only that, but is super functional.
I mean, they're good cans. I think basically no POI shift. I don't know. I almost always shoot my stuff suppressed, so I don't check that too often. But very repeatable on and off. Like, they're not gonna mess up your zero at all. They sound really good. I was shocked with this 300 Win Mag with how quiet it still was, despite being 300 Win Mag.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They could follow you at Firing Device Electrical M57.
Yeah.
I always forget the order of that. I always think it's M57 Firing Device Electrical.
Well, that's like the way the Army like puts stuff in like record. It'll be like tape, comma 100 mile per hour, comma green. Where you could just say green 100 mile per hour tape, but they're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like it's okay to say M57 firing device because that is what most people say.
Yeah.
But it's like that's just how the Army like changes it. Like it's like M1 carbine, but I'm sure in the inventory logs it's carbine, comma M1.
Yeah. But they can follow you on Instagram. And we really appreciate you talking to us about this.
Of course.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah.